Good evening, leaders. I hope you can hear me.
Yeah, good evening.
Can you confirm that you can hear me?
I can hear you clearly, Lois. Thank you.
Okay. So good evening. I'm glad to see you all here tonight. Karibuni sana. Thank you for joining us for this month's monthly reflection, where we'll be dealing with mental well-being for effective leadership. My name is Lois Guru. I am a member of GLN, and also I'm an author, and it's an honor to be your moderator tonight. So karibuni sana. Welcome Brenda, welcome George, Jadida, karibu. Wambui, Rika, karibu, Susan Bishui, karibu. I may not be able to welcome all of you, but karibuni sana. It's such a pleasure to have you. So I'm here on behalf of GLN. GLN means for the visitors, because I can see that you have a lot of visitors tonight. I'm here on behalf of GLN, meaning Generational Leadership Network. That's the name of the host for tonight. We are hosting this webinar in conjunction with Chiromo Hospital Group, and I believe it will be a blessing to all of us, because mental health is a very important topic, and also it's a very sensitive topic. So I'm looking forward to tonight, and I believe that we are all here because we are expectant. So I believe that our expectations will be met or even surpassed. So karibuni sana. Let me take this opportunity to commit this meeting to God by a word of prayer before I can give all of us an opportunity to say hi, and even to tell us maybe what their expectations is. So let's believe and pray. Everlasting Father, in the mighty name of Jesus, we come into your presence this evening. We want to thank you, we want to worship you, to honor you, Redeemer Father, for who you are. Thank you for this opportunity that you've given unto us to learn, to unlearn, and even to relearn, mighty Father. We receive it with thanksgiving. We commit our facilitator into your hands, oh God. We commit each and every person who will join this webinar and who will follow, Redeemer Father, even after we are done, Lord Jesus, mighty and everlasting Father. May that which we shall learn today, Redeemer Father, transform our lives, all for the glory and honor of your name. We thank you and we worship. We pray that you may teach us, guide us, and help us. In Jesus' name we do pray and believe. Amen. So as I said earlier, kindly use the chat, or you can unmute and confirm that you can hear me from wherever you are. For those who have joined us later, kindly type in the chat. Feel free to share in the chat, and also unmute and confirm that you can hear me before we progress. Thank you, Susanna.
We can hear you well.
Okay, thank you. So as I was saying, I'm here on behalf of GLN, and I'll take us through who we are as GLN for the sake of visitors. If you're a visitor, kindly, if you don't mind, you can type in the chat your name and also your contact, if you're okay with it. Your name and your contact, and maybe where you're reaching us from, so that we can get to know you. Even for those who are members, kindly just use the chat and introduce yourself. For the sake of the visitors, introduce yourself in the chat. We may not be able to unmute for each and every one of us to introduce ourselves, but we can use the chat. Let's type our names, where you following from. And also, if you're a visitor, kindly indicate that you are a visitor. We love visitors, and we are very glad to have you. If you are a visitor in the house, feel very much welcome and part of us. So as I was saying, I'm here on behalf of GLN. GLN means Generational Leadership Network. And Generational Leadership Network is a network, as the name indicates. And it's an organization, it's a dynamic organization. It's a dynamic organization that is dedicated to equipping leaders across generations. And the kind of equipping that this network does is we instill skills. We also try to help each and every leader to shift their mindset concerning leadership. And also we impart them with strategies that are needed to lead with purpose and also to impact whichever spaces they are in. We do this through specialized training in purpose-driven leadership. We also do strategic leadership training and crisis leadership training. GLN empowers individuals to navigate challenges, to inspire change, and also build sustainable success. Our mission is to cultivate visionary leaders who influence their communities, their families, organizations, and also industries with integrity, innovation, and resilience. And we can do this whether we are undergoing stability in whichever spaces we are, or we are in a crisis. GLN prepares leaders to rise to the occasion, fostering a legacy of transformational leadership. So that is basically who GLN is in a nutshell. And I'm going to take this opportunity to invite our president to take it from there. And I believe that you're going to be inspired. So karibuni sana, karibu Dr. Kiarie, and I wish you all the best. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Lois, and leaders. It's our pleasure to host you together with Chiromo Hospital Groups. We have engaged with leaders, and through our conversation and engagement trainings and team buildings, one thing has kept on coming up, and we felt we can make a contribution to that challenge, because among the many challenges that leaders are facing, there are issues to do with how to manage stress and burnout. There are also issues to do with how to build effective teams. Conflict resolution is another key item that keeps on coming up in our conversations, but also in other studies that have been done, and also how to adapt to change. We are in what we are calling the VUCA environment. So how do we lead in a VUCA environment? An environment that is very volatile, full of uncertainty, that is complex, that is also ambiguous, where we cannot apply sometimes strategies that worked a while ago to be able to deal with the challenges that are emerging now. And as we reflected on this, we thought we can collaborate, just come together so that we can have this conversation on mental well-being, because leaders who prioritize this kind of engagements and also building capacity in this area, they're able to navigate this shifting environment in a more positive way. They're also able to take care of themselves, because again, the issue of self-care has become very key and very important. That's how we are able to manage ourselves and also manage our teams. So that's the genesis of this conversation, and that's why we felt let's team together and make an impact there and be able to make a contribution to our leaders, to our organizations. And who knows, probably this could be a turning point to someone tonight. So before I usher in our speaker, because that's really what we want to focus on, and we are all waiting for that moment. We requested you to submit your expectations as you are registering. So a number of them are already with us. Some of them we shall respond during the Q&A. But I believe for the speaker, this will be very important so that as we engage, we'll also want to know what are the leaders expecting from this conversation, and how do we ensure that we are able to address, if not all, most of the issues that have been raised by the leaders. So allow me just to sample a few of them, and then after that, I'll straight away hand over this conversation so that we can get to the discussion of today. So a number of them here, how to deal with difficult situations. I believe this is part of what will be handled in our conversation. Basically, again, we'll be able to gain some more knowledge, and maybe this conversation will also help us to prioritize mental well-being, upskill the act of balance, of various aspects of life that affect my work, family, and relationships. How to balance leadership and social life, and then also widen knowledge on how to be in good and sound mental wellness as a leader, both in church and also at home. Again, just additionally to the expectations, we have to understand mental health better. Again, the issue of work-life balance, modalities, how to deal with stress, learn how to help my team build healthy boundaries. And then we have another one here, learn how to understand if someone has mental health challenges and how to assist before seeking health experts. And how can one know if he or she has mental health problem. Then finally, get more information on how to maneuver high pressure work environment, how to implement a corporate governance effectively, mental wellness in the workplace, learn more about mental health and leadership, learn techniques to manage stress, anxiety, and depression, and then finally, to be able to cope with stressful situations at the workplace. Probably at the end, we could visit some of this and just be able to see what have we addressed, and probably what do we need to address as part of our Q&A. So with that, allow me to pass the mic to Chiromo Group of Hospital. We have a number of representatives here, and this is their day. I just want to hand over so that they can take this conversation from here and going forward. So let me hand over to Victoria. Victoria Rika.
Thank you, Joseph. I hope you can hear me.
Yeah, very clear, and welcome, Victoria.
Asante sana. So if you'll allow me, I'll put up the slides and then we can start. So I don't know if I have the rights to share.
Yes, Victoria.
No, let me see. Okay, I'm not able to share. All right, now I can. 1 minute then. Joseph, confirm that you can see the slides and that they are moving.
Yes, I can see the slides and they are moving.
All right, thank you very much. So I'm happy to be here this evening, and I hope we can delve into some of the things that concern leaders when it comes to mental wellness. So I've had the questions that you've asked. I will try and capture them within the presentation, but if we do not answer all of them, there will always be another opportunity. So my name is Victoria Rika. I'm a clinical psychologist and head of wellness department at Chiromo Hospital Group. For those who may not have visited us or taken the time to go through our website, that is Chiromo Hospital Group. We have 5 branches within Nairobi, and we have 1 branch in Nyali, Mombasa. I sit at the Upper Hill Medical Center where we have the wellness branch. What is our vision as Chiromo Hospital Group? And it is simply to provide dignified quality mental health care in Africa and the regions beyond, because we do have patients or clients who we see virtually from across the lands. And some of them, when they come back home to the country, then they do give us a physical visit for further follow-ups. Our mission is to pursue excellence in the delivery of mental health services by adhering to evidence-based practices. So evidence-based practices being what we have tried and seen to work. So we do not have guesses where our patients are concerned, but we use evidence-based practices. Those are our core values. A few of them, we have many: respect, honesty, innovation, and reliability. And our tagline is recovery in dignity. There's so much stigma surrounding mental health and mental illnesses, but when we are dealing with our clients, be they inpatients or outpatients, we want to wish them recovery in dignity or treat them with the utmost dignity that will aid in their recovery. So when we talk about leaders, leaders are a lonely lot because people think that you're at the top, so you have it together. And they have a lot of demands, which lead to a lot of working hours, reduced personal time, and they have no time or very limited time for relaxation and self-care. Research shows us that leaders face mental health risks, 33%, 42% stress or burnout rates. And this is driven by the role demands and also isolation. Because when you're at the top and people think you have it together, then you have very few bosom friends. You may have acquaintances here and there, but mostly you are all by yourself. So when you look again at the statistics, 1 in 5 executives would be experiencing levels of stress which are considered high or extreme. Maybe I can say that stress in itself does not cause you to have a mental illness, but it can trigger, especially when you have chronic stress, which is stress that you face every day. In your capacity as a leader, whatever it is that you do, you could be a CEO, you could be the manager in some outfit, you could be a pastor, you could be whatever you are, but as long as you are a leader, then you could be experiencing stress, and then chronic stress will lead to burnout, and it could easily trigger an underlying mental health condition or even trigger you to a mental health condition because of that toxic environment. Then we have people who are in leadership very reluctant to seek help. Why? How do I, as a leader, get to be seen in a mental health facility that I have come for counseling? How do I go for support to my peers? I am the leader. I am the one who shows the way and goes the way. So how do I start seeking for help? But we find that most leaders have a lot of phobia for seeking out for help because they do not want to be seen as being weaklings, but they want to be seen as people who can actually manage whatever situation they're experiencing. Now, if you do have a wellness program, which means that you have a program which takes care of the mental health of employees, and mental health encompasses a whole lot of things. It also includes physical health because you cannot claim to be physically healthy and your mental health is suffering. You cannot claim to be mentally healthy and you're ailing physically. So health is not just physical, it is mental, physical, also social. Now, if you have a wellness program within the work environment, then there will be a 30% improvement in productivity and reduced absenteeism. Then we also have statistics from Deloitte that 33% of top leaders are struggling with a lot of fatigue, stress, or even depression, which is already an identifiable mental illness. So when Deloitte again went through some research, some analysis, 68% of employees and 81% of the C-suite say that improving their well-being is more important than advancing their career. But are they saying that openly? Are they taking steps to actually improve their well-being? Or is this some anonymous poll that was taken because they do not want to talk publicly about it, because they do not want to be viewed as being unable to lead from the top simply because they could be suffering from a mental illness or poor mental health? So why is it important to focus on leadership? When you're a leader, you have roles, you have obligations, you have unique pressures which could severely impact your mental health. So I keep saying mental health. Maybe I should define what mental health is. And we say from the World Health Organization definition that it is a state of well-being whereby, number one, you realize your full potential, or you have the ability to realize your full potential. Number two, you're able to cope with the normal stresses of life. And when you think about your life, what are the normal stresses? It could be managing people, managing the accounts, managing the bill, managing whatever it is that you are a leader for. So if you're not able to cope with the stressors that you face on a daily basis, you find yourself getting irritable, you find yourself projecting your feelings negatively on other people, then clearly you're not coping well with the stressors that you are experiencing. Number three, are you being productive? At the end of a working day, at the end of spending some time with the family, are you able to quantify what it is that you have achieved? Have you been able to clinch that deal? Have you been able to work on that report? Have you been able to listen to that employee? What have you been able to achieve at the end of a day or 2 days or even a week? If you're not productive within the work environment, then already we say that your mental health is compromised. So I can almost hear most of you saying that already your mental health is going south. And finally, are you making a contribution to the community, be it in the church, in the mosque, in the organization that you lead? When you're away for a week, do people notice? When you're there, do they feel your impact? Are you making a contribution to your community? So now that you understand the definition of mental health, the first word that comes to mind when you talk about mental health is that it is a state. And a state means that it can shift, which means that you can have good mental health, you can have poor mental health, you can have optimum mental health. So it depends on the things that you do or the things that you expose to yourself or your response, then that will tell us clearly where you are headed when it comes to the level of your mental well-being. So once you understand the dynamics of your leadership role, then it will help you work on better leadership practices. So who is a leader? Now we're talking about leaders, but really, who is a leader? When I talk about me being a leader, I am talking about a person who influences a group of people, and underline the word who influences. And we will see that leadership is not about authority, it's really about influencing. If you use the law, then it means that you're not very good at your leadership skills. But if you influence people by virtue of your leadership skills towards the achievement of a goal, then you can count yourself as one of the leaders who we say, really, I would want that person to be my leader. So leadership is a process whereby an individual influences a group of individuals to achieve a common goal. You already have the vision, the mission of the organization. You already have what it is that you want the company to achieve. You have the projections. So are you guiding your team towards that direction? So again, we see that when it comes to effective leadership, it's not simply about pointing directions, telling them, do this, go here, do that. A leader is one who knows the way. They can clearly tell you this is the company's vision. They go that way and they also show the way. So they walk alongside you. And if you look at most definitions of leadership, you will find that there are people who are leading from the front. Now, leadership is again that capacity to translate vision into reality. So wherever it is that you're leading, are you translating that vision into reality? Or you're looking down at the employees that you have and asking them, why have we not achieved? You should be asking yourself, why have I not achieved, or what am I missing? Again, leadership is also about unlocking people's potential to become better. Now, how would you be able to unlock someone's potential if at all you yourself are not achieving your full potential? So we've already said that the definition of mental health has to do with realizing your full potential. So if you have that insight that I have potential which I have been able to unlock, then you're also able to identify potential in other people and help them, mentor them towards unlocking it. So the key to successful leadership is actually influence, not authority. That is why most leaders, if not successful ones, usually have an open door policy, and they tell people, even if it is the janitor, even if it is the cleaner, if you have any ideas which you feel would propel the company to greater heights, then of course you can come and share that with me. And they have a growth mindset, and they know that these ideas can come from the very least of places that they actually expect. So what are key leadership dynamics? Number one, high responsibility and accountability. If something goes wrong within the organization, you as a leader, you have nowhere to point your fingers. If you look at the Garden of Eden, when the woman ate the apple, when God came looking for them, what the man said, he said, "It is the woman that you gave me," passing on the back. But now when you're a leader, there is nowhere to pass on the back. You take it and own it, right? So high responsibility and accountability. Again, decision making under uncertainty. Good leaders may waver, but eventually they make a decision. There could be a lot of uncertainties. Maybe the market is going to crash, maybe not going to get that particular project, but a good leader decides and makes, of course, with a lot of guidance from his core team members, but he makes the decision under a lot of uncertainty. Again, there's a lot of isolation and loneliness. We already mentioned that. People who are at the top have very, very few people to confide in, especially within the same organization. It is very hard for you to see the CEO or to see that pastor confiding in the people below him. Usually they will either look for their peers or people away from the organization. So there's a lot of isolation and loneliness, and a lot of things can be happening within the company and you have no idea because no one is going to tell you what is going on. Managing conflicts and difficult conversations. Leaders often mediate conflicts and deliver tough feedback. So you must be someone who is assertive, someone who is able to sit down and have good conflict resolution skills. Leaders who push conflicts to their subordinates, or they don't want to deal with it, they don't want to be involved, and clearly they need to get involved in that particular case, do not make for very good leadership dynamics. Constant visibility and scrutiny, they are always on display. If, for example, you're a pastor and your child has gone haywire, maybe they're taking drugs, they're probably abusing substances, then people will be talking about how pastor is unable to control his own family. How can he even control the church? So under constant visibility and scrutiny, pastor will not be able to even take a cup of tea with another sister from the church. Why? Because people will be wondering what exactly is he up to. So you're always on display. If you're a CEO, if you go clubbing somewhere, you're seen in carnival, for the older generation, or you're seen in whichever clubs people go to, then they will be talk all over that our CEO is actually a drunkard or he's imbibing too much alcohol. So always constant visibility and scrutiny. Balancing competing demands because of multiple responsibilities, then again, that can become very overwhelming. And remember, you also have family. You also have yourself to take care of. So you need to do self-care. You need to touch base with your family if you have a family. Even if you do not have a family, you must have a life away from your official working hours. So balancing competing demands is also one of the leadership dynamics. So what would be the mental health challenges of leaders? High expectations and pressure, constant decision making. They're responsible for others. It's like the way a very responsible father heads a household. He's the one who knows what school fees are we paying, what schools do we put the children in. If your wife is in a career, is this the right career for her? You know, how is she performing her career? So the leaders always kind of translate to being fathers. So they're the ones who people are looking up to, and there's a lot of high expectations and pressure for them to conform. We've mentioned loneliness, and then there's also the risk of burnout. Now, when there's chronic stress which you wake up to every day, remember you're also a normal human being and you're facing normal pressures of life away from being a leader. So it could be you're in this family, maybe you're struggling with your relationship, you're having a lot of pressure with your partner, maybe the relationship is not working. You could be having children who are running around taking alcohol, teenage pregnancies. You could also be struggling with, for example, a parent who has age-old diseases, like for example, Alzheimer's, dementia. So the minute they wander away from the compound, they become lost. So you have chronic stress. You're always thinking about them. Are they safe? Are my children okay? And you also now have a whole organization to also take care of. Now, when you have that stress and you do not know how to manage it or how to resolve it, you're always thinking about one thing or the other. You have a diary which is so tightly packed, you don't even know how to navigate. But that chronic stress gets you to a place where you get to emotional exhaustion and physical depletion, and therefore you land into burnout. Now, when you get burnout, you become someone who has simply no care for whatever is happening around them. You become very lethargic. You keep on postponing tasks. You become very disengaged. You used to be very happy. This senior leader who was very happy, this pastor, this CEO, this line manager was very happy with whatever it is that he was doing. But right now you feel numb. Nothing about the organization or about your church or about whatever it is excites you anymore. You become very, very disengaged. And you have such a feeling of exhaustion, you can't even explain it. You sleep, it's not becoming better, and it does not get better even with time. Now, if you're stressed, if you take some time off and probably do a bit of self-care, then you feel better. When it comes to burnout, no matter how much rest you take, you simply do not get better. Then there is what is called imposter syndrome. So I'm good at what I do, but when people tell me I've done a good job, I'm thinking, really? Someone else could have done it. I don't think I did it as well. So you have what we call imposter syndrome. You feel inadequate. You have the achievements, yes, but this could also go back to your years growing up. Maybe your parents brought you up and maybe they kept on telling you that why can't you be as good as the neighbor's child? Why can't you get better marks? So you grow up with a lot of inferiority, always second guessing yourself. So you worked very hard, got into a position of leadership, but you do not believe in yourself. Why? Because you've not processed the ghosts of your past. The parent tapes are still playing around your brain, telling you, why can't you be like so and so? So instead of measuring yourself against yourself, you're measuring yourself against other people. There's what is called work-life balance. Many people call it that, but I prefer to call it work-life integration. You're trying to manage your profession and what is going on around you, that environment, as well as your personal responsibilities. This could be things like you're trying to get that higher education, you want to go to the gym, you want to spend time with your family, you want to socialize and go visit people in the village, but you're looking at your diary and wondering, how can I even spare a minute for the family? You're not able to do things which are important, things like going to the church or the mosque or just being spiritual. You have a lot of struggle. Emotional labor. Now, if you are a leader and you lack emotional intelligence, then this becomes now more complicated for you. Emotional intelligence is the ability to understand your emotions and also the emotions of other people. Leaders who are emotionally intelligent are able to read the mood of the room. They do not respond very fast to aggressiveness. They first of all take a pause and they can ask people who have been aggressive, would you like to explain that more? Would you give me some time to understand it? But if you have emotional dysregulation as a result of being not emotionally intelligent, you will find yourself having a lot of emotional labor. Now, what are the signs of mental health struggles? Mental illnesses, first of all, differ from mental health struggles because anyone could be going through a mental health struggle. Then again, some people could come to a place where they have mental illnesses. Now, mental illnesses are a range of conditions that negatively affect your mood, they affect your thinking, they also affect your behavior. And we can get mentally unwell either because number one, of biological component, maybe we have a relative, maybe probably a mother, a father, who had a mental illness. And now by predisposition, because we have the genetical component, then we could also be at a stage where we can suffer from that mental illness. Now, not to say that you must always get mentally unwell simply because there's someone with mental illnesses in the family, no, but we talk about preventive, promotive factors, which you can take care of to help you not get to a space where you become mentally unwell. Now, away from the biological component, there could also be traumatic experiences. Maybe you went through something very challenging in your company, maybe something happened and it ruined your reputation, and you're still the leader there, but it hangs on you like a dark cloud. Something really, really traumatic, and you've not been able to process it. So what happens? You keep thinking about it, you keep having flashbacks about it, you even have nightmares about it. If you are to be assessed, most likely you'd be having what we call post-traumatic stress disorder. Now, again, when it comes to post-traumatic stress disorder, you do not necessarily have to be the one who has experienced it firsthand, but you could also have watched someone go through something traumatic. Like, for example, you see someone being killed through a road accident or a bombing or someone being knifed or something, someone losing an arm or being amputated through an accident, and it really, really horrifies you and you develop the same symptoms. You keep re-experiencing, remembering, having flashbacks. So you get to a place where you have what we call post-traumatic stress disorder. Then we also would have mental illnesses because of what is called adverse childhood experiences. Growing up, what was your environment like? Did you have loving, supportive, nurturing caregivers? Whether they were your biological parents or grandparents, whatever, did you have a lovely environment where there was a lot of love and good nurturing? If you are mistreated, if you're sexually or physically or emotionally abused, and you have not processed it, that could also lead you to a place where you become mentally unwell. And of course, if you're taking substances, alcohol, marijuana, that could also get you to a place where you trigger a mental illness. Now, those are just some of the signs. Those are just some of the risk factors for mental illnesses, and we have very many examples. Now, within the working environment, depression and anxiety are the most prevalent. What is depression? Depression is defined as a mood disorder. You find yourself feeling sad most of the time. You can't quite put a finger as to why you're feeling sad, and sometimes you can, because if you've experienced loss and grief, then you're able to say, I feel so sad because I lost my mom, because I lost my dad. But depression, you feel a pervasive feeling of sadness continually for not less than 14 days, which is 2 weeks. So if you feel that way most of the time, your appetite changes, you find yourself eating too little, and if you're eating too much, then you're eating junk food. So you're eating cakes and crisps and taking sodas, and once you feel good because they give you a sugar rush, they're called comfort foods, but once the food is depleted from your system, then you feel worse than you did even before you took them. You feel hopeless, you feel helpless. Things that previously interested you, you have no desire for them. You feel very lethargic. You used to be very happy going for team building, going to church, going for those leadership meetings. Suddenly you feel very, very absent from that. You feel you have no desire to participate. Then you may get to a place where you even stop dressing well, you stop taking care of yourself. And especially for men, then you start trying to cope with taking alcohol. If the depression is very severe and not taken care of, you may come to a point where you feel there's no point of living. And we find that 80% of people who die through suicide are usually experiencing clinical depression. So if you experience those symptoms for at least 14 days, then I would be inclined to diagnose you with clinical depression. Then I've also mentioned anxiety, depression and anxiety as the two main mental illnesses within the working environment. Anxiety means that you've been told you're going to talk to the rest of the team, and you're told you will stand there for 10 minutes, give a presentation. So you prepare yourself, but on the material day, you're sweating, you're trembling, you're having heart palpitations. You try to talk, you can't get the words out of your mouth. You have a stomach problem, you want to go to the washroom, and you try compose yourself, you try to talk, but you can't get the words out. You're even trembling. Now, if this repeats itself over a period of time, then we may be inclined to diagnose you with what we call an anxiety disorder. So those are mental illnesses, and we've mentioned that they come from different places. But we have now signs of mental health struggles. Yes, you have not been identified or diagnosed with a mental illness, but you're struggling with your mental health. So you'll find yourself having increased irritability or mood swings, withdrawal from social interactions. This could be one of maybe this week, next week. But if they become not cumulative over a period of time, then you may need to seek help from a professional. Again, if there's decline in performance or missed deadlines, overworking or inability to disconnect, then physical signs, a lot of fatigue, Insomnia means that you are unable to sleep. And we have insomnia, which is caused by depression. And how you'd be able to know that it is depression is, for example, you go to bed at 9 and then you wake up at 3 or 2 and you can't go back to sleep again. And this happens frequently. If that happens to you, that could be sleep loss or insomnia related to depression. Again, you could go to bed at 9, wake up at 10, go back to bed at 12, wake up at 1, you keep on waking up, then that could again be a sign of anxiety. Now, within the working population, again, as leaders, you may find that you may also be prone to absenteeism. So now, when you're a leader, you don't have to report to anyone. I'm not able to come to the office today. But you find yourself, if you have to tell somebody, just probably saying, I'm away for a meeting, I'm away somewhere, and maybe you're just at home sleeping, or you just decide, I can't go to work today. So a lot of absenteeism. If you have that, then you need to ask yourself if there's a problem with your mental health. Then again, there's what we call presenteeism. So yes, you go to your CEO office at the corner there, but you sit there, you're there physically. Yes, we can see you through the glass window, but you're there physically, mentally, you're very, very far away. You're completely disengaged with the operations of the company. And some of your subordinates are able to pick up on this and they take advantage. So you're wondering, why are things going wrong within the company? It's because you're presenting what we call presenteeism. You're always there physically, but mentally you're not engaged with the happenings of the company. So we have emotional signs as well, feeling very hopeless or overwhelmed. And again, you have no passion for your work. So what is the impact of poor mental well-being on leadership? Decreased decision-making ability. When you have poor mental health, your cognitive functioning declines. And what happens? You have memory issues, you have concentration issues, you have poor judgment, and therefore you cannot make what we call optimum decisions. Reduced emotional intelligence and communication effectiveness. Already, if you have reduced emotional intelligence, then it means you can't pick up on the emotions of other people, which means that you may be inclined to scream at them, to shout at them. Why? Because you're not able to read their emotions. So reduced emotional intelligence is one of the things that could be an impact of poor mental well-being on leadership. Increased stress-related health issues. Now, this is quite interesting. We did a study as Chiromo Hospital Group around the country by our very own chairman, and they figured out that 25% of outpatients visiting a medical health facility are there because they have a stomach issue, they have a cold, they have flus, but in reality, what they have is an undiagnosed mental illness. Now, when you are stressed, your body continually releases the stress hormone cortisol. And what happens is that that hormone is supposed to take care of the stress that you're experiencing for that period. But if you do not resolve your stress, you do not have good stress coping mechanisms, then what happens? Your body continually, because of the chronic stress, continues releasing the stress hormone. Now, which exposes you to things like cardiovascular issues. Now, when this stress is not taken care of, it starts manifesting itself physically. So you may even have what we call skin breakouts. And you go to the dermatologist, they give you the best creams, but it is not resolved. So you end up as an outpatient at Kenyatta Hospital. Or you go there and you tell them, I have these stomach problems. And they give you all kinds of medication. They test you for bacterial infections, for H. pylori, all the things that they do, but they can't quite figure out what is going on with you. And at some point, they tell you, I think what you need to do is to see a psychologist or a psychiatrist. What you're going through is a lot of stress. And sometimes you feel like at the back of your shoulders, there's so much strain. You feel your muscles are so stiff, so taut. And you also have migraines, which are not going away. You find yourself having flus all the time. You're always buying over-the-counter medication. Why? When you're stressed, your immune system becomes very compromised and you become more susceptible to infections. Now, how do you manage stress? Because stress always comes to us. And we say part of being mentally healthy is your ability to cope with the normal stresses of life. You can do what we call self-care. What do you have a passion for? Is it taking time out in nature? Is it doing yoga? Is it going to the gym? Is it swimming? Is it listening to music? But you must be very intentional about that self-care because no one else is going to do it for you. Then we also have some strategies. For example, we say we have the 4 A's of stress management. Those may not be here, but I can tell you from my mind. And we call them the 4 A's, A for Apple, of stress management. Number 1 is you adapt to whatever it is that is stressing you. If, for example, the market crashes and there's an economic crunch, you adapt to what is happening. As a good leader, you adapt and then quickly compose yourself and see how you can help people. So you do what? You manage that stress by adapting. It has happened like this. Let me change myself to suit the circumstances. There's what I wanted for the company. There's the projections that I have, but there's the reality. Let me adapt to the reality. Then we have what we call alter. Now, when you talk about altering the stressor, it is about, for example, I have this particular employee within my organization, and this employee is always complaining, always working up the rest of the team. How do I change that? Is by having a conversation with this employee, trying to understand where is he coming from. Because sometimes, if you notice, even in high school or primary school, the troublemakers, once you made them prefects, they toed the line. So a good leader will be able to look at those things. If there's an employee who's always doing something that is really, stirring up the rest, if you're able to contain him, you can alter the situation by maybe putting him in a leadership role or a managerial position so he's able to be tamed. So you alter the circumstances. Then we come to accepting. If something has gone bad, it has gone bad. We pick ourselves, dust ourselves, and move on. And this also applies for when it comes to your personal life. If you're experiencing loss, maybe you're in a marriage which has not worked, has broken, you've lost someone to death, you've lost your reputation, you've lost something that you're looking to, maybe a contract or a tender. What do? You go through the process of loss and grief, you go through anger, you go through denial, you go through bargaining. If you stay too long in a place where you're not processing, you'll get depressed, but finally you come to a place of acceptance. Then we have the fourth A, which is avoid. Avoid unnecessary stressors. Pick your battles. If for example, if I go in this direction, it's going to bring me out of, opposition, intimidation, and yet you can choose a better way which will still work, then you avoid the one which will cause you a lot of stress. So those are the 4 ways of managing stress. We've said the other ways you have to, involve self-care, but they should be able to work for you. And what works for you does not necessarily have to work for the other person. So if a leader has poor mental health, there'll be a negative impact on organizational culture, team morale. If we have a leader who is not conscious about his emotional intelligence, who is not conscious, has no insight on when he's suffering from poor mental health, then it trickles down to the level of the ones who are below and trickles down to the other level. So it's kind of a ripple effect. And these organizes what is happening within the culture and the culture of the organization, as well as the team morale. So what strategies then do leaders need to maintain their mental well-being? Self-awareness, and this is very key. You need to know yourself. You need to take a look in the mirror and ask yourself, who am I? And this you can do by taking some personality tests. For example, you can also do what we call the Johari window. And the Johari window is something that you fill in. What do I know about myself? What do I know about myself that other people do not know? And then you ask other people who are trusted or close to you to tell you what it is that you do not know about yourself. Because we all have blind spots. Maybe I'm a leader and I keep on repeating the same mistake. Yet people see that if only he did it this way, then things would be different. But because I'm a leader and I'm unapproachable, then I keep on repeating the same mistake to the detriment of the company. And I'm not aware. So self-awareness is very key, and emotional intelligence. You cannot be a leader and have zero emotional intelligence. You must be in control of your emotions. You must be able to regulate your emotions, and you must be able to read the emotions of the people around you and respond appropriately. Then we have mindfulness and stress management techniques. We've mentioned the stress management techniques. Mindfulness is about using the 5 senses. How do I connect? How do I help my mental well-being? Meditation, breathing exercises, and also part of stress management techniques is what you call time management. Then building resilience. You are like a rubber band. You can stretch so far, but you have the ability to bounce back. So learning from setbacks, using those setbacks as stepping stones to learn from them. It's okay as a leader to acknowledge that I did not get that right. We made a mistake, and your people will see you as human and they relate better with you at that level. So also have a growth mindset. Look forward. Always remember You do not have it all. You do not know it all. You can always learn from the least likely quarters. I already mentioned your janitor, that tea girl, your cleaners could have better ideas than some of the people you have even sitting in your board. So have a growth mindset, right? Then seeking support, you can do that from a professional mental health support. You can get coaching. You can also get peer support groups. Work-life integration is very, very important. And this comes from a place of self-love. You must have self-compassion for yourself, being able to feel for your own suffering. And then out of that, you have what we call self-love. And some of the foundations of self-love are things like drawing boundaries. I must have clear boundaries. I'm not going to jump for any tender, any project, anything that is happening. I must have a vision and a mission for my organization, for my church, for my corporate, and we stick to that. I'm not going to have very rigid boundaries by saying we cannot do that, but I can have healthy boundaries, knowing at what point can we do this, at what point can we let it drop. So I have to have boundaries. And also self-discovery. As a leader, you must come to a place where you have self-discovery. If I can go back to quoting what happened when COVID happened, people lost their jobs. Even managers, even CEOs, companies wound up. But some of them suddenly found out they were actually better off doing something, which was still bringing them an income, maybe an online job. Some found themselves, were actually very savvy business people. And even when the companies came back after COVID and they were told, come back, your jobs are here now, some of them said, no, I am happier doing what it is that I am doing. Self-discovery. So do not wait for a traumatic experience like COVID to push you to a place where you start discovering things about yourself, but be on a journey of self-discovery. And how do I do that? What is it that I aspire to do all the time? What is it that I have a passion for? It does not have to relate to what you're doing right now, but maybe you just close your eyes and I wish I could be, I wish I could be. That is probably what you have a passion for and what you should look at. Then delegation. Now, people who call themselves perfectionists suffer a lot when it comes to delegation. Why? Because when you're a perfectionist, as most leaders tend to be, you feel that I am the only one who can do this task. If I hand it to my juniors, it will not get done well. Now, that is a recipe for disaster because if you're not there, the organization or the church or the corporate needs to continue. So it is important to mentor people who, when you're not there, can still get the job done. And that is through delegation. So teach people, mentor people, let them learn those skills. Develop a healthy organizational culture, and that is by promoting mental health awareness and also things like psychological safety within the team. Psychological safety simply means that people can express themselves. We think this company is going in this direction without the fear of being victimized. So a good leader will ensure that his people can talk what they need to talk about and probably save the company from some catastrophe. So it is important to create psychologically safe spaces. So there's a lot of stigma around mental health where leaders are concerned. So if, for example, you're diagnosed with depression, it becomes a top secret. If you're diagnosed with anxiety, with bipolar disorder, maybe you had an episode within the environment, it is a lot of stigma and you're perceived as someone who is weak. Now, we all get unwell. If you break your leg or you break your hand and come to the office in a cast, are you perceived as weak? No, you are not. In fact, people will come and tell you, oh, boss, we are so sorry. What can we do for you? And in those earlier days, they even used to want to sign your cast, the one on your leg or your hand. But people, once they hear you're having a mental illness, you yourself will first of all not want to talk about it because you'll feel that people may see you as weak. People may not be able now to see you there. They saw you as a leader. So you become vulnerable, and that could hinder you from talking about your struggle. Then again, there could also be the fear of career impact. So if you acknowledge that you're going through mental health issues, sometimes we are CEOs, yes, but we report to our board. So if the board knows that I'm struggling with my mental health, what will happen? Will they say that I take some time off? And meanwhile, what will happen to my job? So fear of career impact. And if word gets around that the CEO of XYZ company has a mental health issue, then other corporates may not have the confidence to deal with them simply because of the stigma around mental health. You can have a mental illness, even like schizophrenia, which is one of the worst kind of mental illnesses. But as long as you take your medication, as long as you adhere to your psychiatrist and your psychologist, then you can live a very normal life and still be the CEO of a particular company. But no, the stigma will not let us get to that place where we can normalize this conversation around mental health. Cultural norms and expectations. So we have not been to a place where we talk openly about psychologists and psychiatrists and mental health. You will find people within the environment talking very openly about politics, talking very openly about a certain gyna that they saw, a gynecologist, talking about this dentist who treats you so well. But hardly will you hear people saying that I went and saw Victoria, who's a psychologist from Chiromo. People will look at you twice and ask you, are you okay? So it becomes very hard, but leaders are supposed to be the ones who change or make that cultural shift within the organizations. But how do they do that? If they are not self-aware, they do not have insight, they are thinking that if they talk about mental illnesses, it will be perceived as weaknesses, then we will keep on talking about this issue of stigma, but not resolving it. So it is important for us to normalize that conversation about mental health within the workspaces. How do we address it? Promote mental health awareness. Many corporates nowadays are calling us, come and talk to my organization about mental health, talk about mental illnesses, talk about substance use. We have so many employees who are gambling, who are addicts, who are 1, 2, 3, and we gladly go and talk to them about mental health awareness. So you promote that. Remember, when you're a leader, you're also having managers reporting to you. And the HR usually will come to you as the leader, and they will tell you that this has happened. Maybe there's this particular employee who was very productive, but we need to lay him off because his productivity has declined. Now, you as a leader, you will be able to go over and above that, and you want to understand what has changed within this person's environment. If they were productive, but now they are not, clearly there's a shift. And instead of encouraging the HR to give him show cause, then you want to explore and find out, is everything okay at home? Is there something they're struggling with? And more often than not, you will find that they are struggling with something at home. Maybe they have a poor relationship, they're having financial problems, they're having a gambling addiction, they're struggling suddenly with alcohol. Whatever it is, something has clearly shifted for this person. But you as a leader, you must be at a point where you're able to pick up on these things. Leadership role modeling. If, for example, you have wellness champions, you have wellness programs within your work environment, if you as a leader do not make use of them, if you as a leader do not attend those wellness days, if you as a leader do not talk about the well-being of employees within the work environment, then who is going to model those behaviors? As leaders, remember, you are under scrutiny. We are looking at you to see what are you doing. So if we have a wellness outfit within the work environment, but you do not even know who sits in that committee as a leader, then clearly you are not role modeling the right kind of behavior where the stigma needs to be addressed. Creating supportive environments. It is important that even the leaders talk about mental health issues. I have seen leaders who have lived experiences. Lived experiences means they went through something, a mental health issue, a mental health challenge. And when they talk about it, then they encourage the rest of the team to talk about it. It's about believing in yourself. Having depression does not define who you are. It is an illness that you have gone through. When you have, for example, broken a leg, like we've mentioned, it does not define who you are. It is simply something that you are experiencing. So if we can start looking at mental health the same way, mental illnesses the same way, then we will be better able to address the issue of stigma. So leaders, as we come to winding down, need a lot of resilience. And resilience is the ability to adapt and bounce back from adversity. How do we build resilience? Number one, develop a growth mindset. Some people who are leaders have closed mindsets. It is about what you know and you're not adding anything to it. But when you have a growth mindset, you have an open mind. You can listen to ideas from various people. And the companies, the organizations, the places that thrive is when people listen to one another, listen to ideas from here, there. And remember, when you listen to your employees and the ideas that they suggest or they give, when you come back to them with a decision, they own it better because they already felt that you listened to them. But if you not even involve them in the decisions, of course, not all the decisions, but if you not involve them at all in any of the decisions within the organization, then they feel it is just dictated dictatorship. There's no leadership there. Then good leaders, again, how to build resilience. They focus on solutions rather than problems. They cultivate strong social connections because social capital is very important. They practice gratitude and positive self-talk, and they also learn from failures and setbacks. Look back at your career, your history as a leader, because you're not born a leader. You must have started from somewhere. What were the failures and the setbacks that you saw climbing up the ladder, and how have they informed you or helped you to be the leader that you are? So we have these workplace strategies for promoting mental health. It is good for leaders to have access or to facilitate mental health resources. We have what we call employee assistance programs, which are outfits or initiatives of employers that take care of anything that is hindering the productivity of the employee. So you could have what is called an outsourced EAP, where you look for psychologists or psychiatrists, usually psychologists, but sometimes you work, of course, with a psychiatrist in case of anything that needs their intervention. But they take care of the employees' well-being. Has something happened within the organization? You need critical incident stress debrief. The psychologists come on site. Are there employees who need help for whatever psychological reason? They come and see the psychologist. And sometimes it extends to the family, because if you're helping an employee, for example, who's going through a bad relationship, you will help that employee, but he will go back to the same environment. So how about also helping the partner so that they're able to get the help that they require together? So the EAP also helps employees, points them towards resources. If, for example, they're suffering from financial mismanagement, then the EAP points them towards a financial consultant. So the EAP is an outfit, and the employer comes up with it and decides it will take care of our employees and possibly their families. The ones that we have right now also take care of families, and they really work because then it makes the employee feel taken care of, and it takes their mind off so many problems, because they know even if they encounter a problem within the work environment, the EAP is going to be able to take care of that. Do you recognize your employees? Do you appreciate them? How do you do that? Some people say we will take a photo of the best employee of the month and hang it somewhere. Small things, not necessarily even monetary, but it could be just a sign of appreciation, a message saying you did so well. So you need to really, really appreciate your employees. Remember, you may not be appreciated, but if you start a culture of appreciating them, then at some point they will get together and they'll think, oh, the CEO's birthday is actually next week. Can we do something? And you'll be surprised with the birthday cake and you'll feel very loved and appreciated. Return to work support. Sometimes you'll have employees who have been admitted for mental health issues. How do you support them when they return to work? When people had COVID, when they would come back to the work environment, almost everyone would want to run away. But when people come back to the work environment and they have had a mental health issue, it is important to ask them how you can support them. How do we stand with you? What can we do for you? Reducing activities, team building activities, open communication channels. Don't muzzle your employees. Even if it is having that suggestion box, make use of it. Mental health education and training. Don't just take this for yourself, but also spread it across to the employees within your organization. Let them understand how to manage stress. Let them talk about emotional intelligence. Let us talk to them about managing with loss and grief, change management. If they've been transferred or the management has changed, how do they handle that to protect their mental health? Leadership commitment and culture shift, things like workload management, and then promotion of physical health. Physical health, how many hours of sleep are you getting? At least 7 to 8. Are you eating well? Are you also doing physical exercises? So when should you seek professional help? If you have persistent feelings of sadness and anxiety, if you're unable to cope with the daily life stresses, if you have difficulty managing relationships, if you've gone through a traumatic experience, if you're having behavioral issues or self-destructive behavior, suddenly you can't keep away from the alcohol, from the drugs. If you have a desire for self-improvement or personal growth, it means you have insight and you've identified something that needs to be taken care of. So finally, this is my last slide. There's what we call the 8 dimensions of wellness. And if you look at these dimensions, they will help you with your mental health and well-being. We've already mentioned emotional intelligence. So emotional wellness, excuse me, is about being able to regulate your emotions, to understand the emotions of the people around you and also your own emotions. Financial wellness, I don't know who talks to leaders about financial wellness, but they need to hear it. What kind of financial decisions are you making for yourself? Where are you investing? Are you investing in get rich quickly schemes, in pyramid schemes? Or are you, if you have the ability as a leader with your income, are you investing in government bonds? Are you investing in real estate? Are you doing something that clearly will bring you some money even towards your retirement? So it is important to ask yourself, am I making sound financial decisions, or am I waiting for retirement, and then with my retirement money, I start building a house in the village? As ridiculous as it sounds, that is what most people do. With the retirement money that they get, they go and start a business which they have never started when they were working. So it is important for you to understand yourself when it comes to financial wellness. Social wellness, social capital, connect with other people for belonging and support. Then we have spiritual wellness, and this is simply about your purpose. And spirituality is not about religion. Some of us may find that purpose within the church, within the mosque, others by playing music, others by doing yoga. So it is important for you to discover your purpose and meaning in life, however you do it. Occupational wellness, how happy am I with my work? How happy am I to wake up and go to work tomorrow morning? If I do not have a passion for my work, then there could be something wrong. Then physical, we've mentioned that physical wellness is about sleep and nutrition and exercises. Then we have intellectual wellness. It's not about just getting that academic certificate or getting that professional certificate. It's also about recognizing creative abilities, which is what happened when COVID hit. People realized that they could actually do online things, they could do carvings, they could do art, they could do something, and it was bringing them money. And finally, environmental wellness. That is maintaining good health by occupying pleasant, stimulating environments that support your well-being. And remember, environmental wellness is also about the company that you keep. As a leader, you are the sum total of the 5 people that you keep. So who are those people? That is part of your environmental wellness. And with that, I would like to hand it back to Joseph to take us to a close. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much, Victoria. Just following and taking a lot of notes here. I think that was a very comprehensive recap, especially for us who have been in this conversation. It's really brought out a number of issues. Well, one of the things that I've noticed with my engagement with the leaders is the need to have a safe space. And I believe this is part of the safe space where we can be able to express ourselves and get help, because that's the only way we come out courageously and we're able to help others. It's normally said that a hurting leader will hurt others. Sometimes we are hurting without knowing until we sit down like this and we have a conversation like this, and then we realize I need to do something. I think I need to reach out to Victoria or someone else that I can be able to confide in and be able to get some help. So I have really picked a lot, and why we also thought we need to have this conversation is basically to achieve what you have mentioned. Normalize conversation about mental health. Be confident to come out and seek for help, and just be able to express ourselves so that we can be able to be in good health, be in good condition to be able to take care of ourselves and also be able to lead others. I like this announcement that is normally made in an aeroplane. Yeah, in case of an emergency, you need to fix your own oxygen mask first before you help others. And that's one thing that we emphasize to leaders, that we must be in good health for us to be able to help others to also to be in good health. So maybe as we do this, Victoria, I want to invite you to the just to have a look at the chat. I've seen a number of comments, I've seen a number of questions, and I would wish to invite leaders just to share a comment, share a question on the chat. Then we can address the questions as we wind up this conversation. So already, Victoria, there are a number of them. Maybe we could go together, we could go through together, and then we'll address a number of them. We'll see how many we can be able to address. So let me pick the first one from Stephen, and he says, would high expectations challenge the leader to raise the standard? Yeah, we do not expect mediocre leadership standard, or do we? Yeah, so
Thank
maybe
you for that question.
Mm.
You want me to respond right now?
Yes, Victoria.
All right, thank you, Joseph. So, would high expectations challenge the leader to raise the standard? Yes, they would, but we've said again, do not set yourself up for failure. If you're setting expectations, high standards which you know are not achievable, then as a leader, you'll be setting up yourself up for failure. But if you see that these are standards I can actually achieve, of course, you have SMART goals, they're specific, measurable, and all that. We do not want mediocre leadership standards, yes, but then again, we don't want to have leaders who are aspiring for the moon and they can only go so far. So it is important to set standards that you are sure you can actually attain. And then after that, you set not the bar higher because you've attained what you wanted. Then you can keep on setting the bar higher, but progressively. I think that is how I would respond to that, Joseph.
Yeah, thank you. And I think that also connects to the issue of strategy. Yeah, you have a long-term thinking and then you break it down so that you are able to build capacity as you work towards the bigger vision or the grand goal. Again, Steve has another question. Should the leader be accountable, challenged, and by who? When challenged, how should the leader respond? Victoria?
Now, this sounds very much like HR, right? But I'll
Yeah.
attempt to respond to it. But I believe that any employee who has a concern about any decisions made by the leader, they can respectfully challenge them, and not challenging as in we know it. They could respectfully pass their concerns and say that maybe if we had done this in this particular way. But how do they do that? Only if you have created what we have said is a psychologically safe space. So when a leader is challenged in the right manner, like we have mentioned, then he should respond positively and say, let me look into it. Good leaders always, first of all, say, let me look into it. Even if it takes a day or two, let me look into it and then come back with a response. If you're emotionally intelligent, you respond on the spot. You first of all take a pause, and the pause could be a day or two. Then you come back to the person who has asked the question. Remember, again, it should be respectfully and not challenging as the word challenging sounds, but with a lot of respect and a lot of reverence, but only if you yourself as a leader has created a psychologically safe space. So the employee will not feel intimidated or feel that they may lose their job or they'll be victimized because of raising up something.
Wow, thank you so much. One of the modules that we normally cover in our leadership masterclass is leadership vis-a-vis management. And I think what we are also noticing is that we have more managers into our environments, and that is positive for the short term. But when it comes to long term, then we have a challenge. And through such conversations, we are able to appreciate the true functions and how they can be able to complement each other. Because on one hand, you have a function that is much into results oriented. On another arm, you have a function that needs to strike a balance. It's human centered. It's about the welfare of the employee, but at the same time, ensuring that we're able to achieve the desired results. So I think this is part of what strategic leaders do, because strategic leaders, they flourish in asking questions. They flourish in tapping into ideas. And as a secure leader would also stand the test of being challenged, because that's also how we continue to grow as leaders. So I feel we'll just leave it at that, but I'm sure as Victoria has put it, this again relates to HR. I believe, Mr. Stephen, we have attempted to address that to a certain level. I'll pick a question from Liz Mwangi as I come up. Liz says, how do you deal with the imposter syndrome? Liz, Victoria?
Thank you for that question, Liz. Now, how to deal with imposter syndrome? I usually tell people to take it to therapy, because you need to come to a place where you first of all understand, where is it coming from? Why am I second guessing myself? And it usually needs like a trip back into your childhood to understand, because it developed somewhere along the way. So instead of trying to guess and figure and find out, I usually say take it for therapy, take it to a professional for you to be able to process it.
Yeah, thank you. I move on to Elias, Matasha. A good number of mental problems are finance related. How do you solve this in case where there are no salary increment or any other source of income? Victoria?
Now, is that for the leaders or for their employees?
Good number of mental problems are finance related. How do you solve this? Okay. Elias, are you able to clarify on this?
I think he says employee. I think he said employee down there.
Employee, yes, yes.
Well, I don't know if I agree that a good number of mental problems are finance related. Well, quite a huge number of them are finance related. But then again, good leaders will know it's not about how much money even you yourself are earning, it's about what you do with that money. So, do we have people who can take us through financial wellness for us to know simple things? Like, for example, what percentage of my salary should go into a rental house if, for example, I'm paying rent? Not more than 30%. But do people know that? People want to keep up with the Jones. Sometimes you're suffering because you're trying to live above your means. And that is what now gets you to a place where you become mentally challenged. It's not about how much money you're making, it's about what you do with it. And maybe once the leaders learn that, then they can also educate or let their staff learn the same. Well, of course, if there's no salary increment or any other source of income, then it is good to be communicative with your staff to tell them why there's no salary increment. Remember, if you're a business and you're making money, they will be seeing the money coming in, unfortunately for you. And for them, they'll know that there's some money that is coming in. And last year we made so many sales. So why aren't we having some sort of increment? Maybe you need to explain to them that the cost of business has gone high, show them figures, show them statistics. If you communicate, employees will own the company with you and they'll be more motivated towards working for the better of the company because they know that when the money really is there, you will give them an increment. Again, we say you can always start something that you can do away from your regular job. Not compromising because we have integrity again, not compromising your regular job. But if you're able to do something on the side, like so many people are doing, then by all means, you can actually do it. As long as you ensure it does not compromise on what you're employed to do.
Okay. I'll move straight away to the next question. How do you read the emotion in the room? Yeah, people's emotions. That's Stephen. Victoria can handle that.
Now, reading the emotion of people in the room, you need to look at their non-verbals. I think we say that 80% of communication is what is not being said. So you need to look at how are they looking at you? What is the posture of their body? What is their general demeanor? If you're looking at them in the eye, are they looking away or are they looking at you? So the non-verbals are what you pick up so you're able to read the mood in a room. You can actually get into a room and already you feel it is so hostile just by the way people are looking at you. They look at you in a very confrontational way. So if you're wise enough, you will be able to read the emotion in the room and then respond appropriately. And usually it is by questioning, what would you like us to talk about? Even if you have an agenda, you first of all put the agenda aside and really ask people what would they want to talk about. In that way, you kind of disarm them, and then you can go back to your agenda once you're through with what it is that they wanted to talk about in the first place. Thank you, Joseph.
Yeah, thank you, Victoria. I'll take another round, but before I take another round, I just want to mention something brief about GLN. Meanwhile, leaders, you can continue sharing your questions on the chat. We'll finalize the last round just after mentioning something. So as we mentioned at the beginning, and clearly we can see even from this conversation, that leaders require certain systems also to support them. And studies have been done pointing out on the leadership gaps. But as you get deeper into this conversation and start to research more, you realize there are a number of areas that leaders require certain support. And it is through this understanding that GLN, Generation Leadership Network, thought about how do we come in and be a solution. Victoria has talked about thinking about solution. So if there are issues there that we have the capacity, we have the know-how, or we can be able to pull resources together and be able to offer a solution, then that's the best initiative that we can be able to take as leaders. So we thought we can make a contribution to this and create a community where leaders come together. So every day we have a discussion about leadership going on. We have leaders coming together to share, leaders coming together to be able to offer that safe space. On Monday, we have a module we call Crisis Leadership. And we are dealing with emerging issues. How do we prepare ourselves? How do we anticipate for crisis? How do we plan for it? And how do we execute when it happens? On Tuesday, we talk about purpose-driven leadership, where we come and ask ourselves questions regarding issues of what motivates me to lead as a leader. Then on Wednesday, we have a session on strategic entrepreneurship and leadership. Again, a number of businesses have suffered loss, and studies have showed quite a number of businesses are not able to go beyond 5 years. And there is also a declining lifespan of organizations globally. So to address that again, we have to get into this conversation about leadership, study what is affecting companies. And one of the things that is affecting the lifespan of companies is linked to issues of leadership, the issues of integrity, the issue of strategic leadership, issues to do with clarity of vision, among others, including issues of mentorship. So on Wednesday, we have strategic entrepreneurship and leadership. Then Thursday, we have another cohort focusing on purpose-driven leadership. And Friday, we talk about strategic leadership. And this is where we look at various strategies on how do we gain a competitive advantage in the space and address some of the issues that are affecting the declining lifespan. Then on Saturday, we have another masterclass focusing on purpose-driven leadership. Then we wind up our week on Sunday, where we come together and talk about book writing and publishing. We are also working together with others, nurturing them, bringing them together to be able to launch their books together so that we can leverage on our networks. And Victoria has talked about social capital, and also be able to be strategic in terms of how we tap into our market out there. So our vision is to nurture leaders who are generational thinkers, leaders who are purpose-centered, leaders who are vision-driven. And we see these leaders in every home, in every organization, and in every country. So each leader that we work together with through our masterclass, we believe that is a leader in that home, that is a generational thinker, is also a purpose-centered leader, and a vision-driven leader. So these are part of the programs. One of it is purpose-driven leadership. And be able to share some how to reach us so that you can be able to get some more information regarding the masterclass. And then we have one day, we call it the Impact Leader, where again we come together, learn, and also have fun. Where we come together and then have some team building experience. And that also helps us just to ease off and to be able to have a safe space where we can connect with the leaders. Then crisis leadership. This, again, we have had a high uptake on this. I think that is also a reflection of what is happening, how the environment looks like, because you have seen quite a number of leaders enrolling for crisis leadership masterclass. And I believe it's a response. It's addressing an issue, and that is part of what we have discussed today. We have also been able to reach out to schools to offer leadership training to schools, a package we are calling Emerging Leaders. This is a blueprint for high schools and also colleges, and this is one of the schools where we trained 154 leaders in Makueni. And again, we have had book launches where we come together as leaders. And this is, again, is what Victoria has talked about, pursuing our passion so that we are able to work at ease. We are at ease when we are working. Work does not become, we don't separate work with life. Yeah, we feel like we are in sync with ourselves as we do what we are passionate about. So if you want to reach out to us, you can reach out to us through our website. We have the email there, and also we have the contact numbers that you can be able to get in touch with us. So let me just take the final round, Victoria, I think we have 2 more questions, and then we bring this to a close. Yeah. So we had a question. I don't know if this was a question from Stephen. Promote the troublemaker to leadership position. Yeah. Interesting. I don't know, Victoria, if you can mention something about that.
Yeah, I think that was just his observation, but it has worked. It actually
Yeah.
works. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's true. And I think, Victoria, again, there's the issue of personality where when we understand the different personalities and their strength as well as the areas of improvement, probably that also helps us to have a certain perspective to each person in the team. Sometimes it also shifts our perspectives regarding certain individuals in the teams if we appreciate their strength. I just thought probably that can be part of what we can mention there. Then we have the last question. Victoria probably could take the last question.
Thank you. I think it's how to deal with mental effects of realizing you're being ostracized at the workplace. So when there's ostracization happen within the workplace, usually the employee will feel lonely. Even if you're the leader, you'll feel lonely, you'll have a low self-esteem. And if you do not take care of what you're processing, then you could easily get into depression. And you realize sometimes employees now become defensive, they stop wanting to be in social situations, and they can become very overly sensitive when it comes to their mood, simply because they're being ostracized at the work environment. But what do you do? It's about concentrating on your tasks and responsibilities. It's about believing in yourself. It's about changing your thinking patterns. We usually say that when something happens, and it's called the cognitive triangle, you have a thought about it. Then the thought gives you a feeling or an emotion, and then that feeling or emotion gives you behavior. So if you want to change how you feel or how you behave, you have to go back to your thought. And now thinking is a very automatic process. When something happens, you don't start thinking, what will I think? You automatically think. So you need to catch your negative thoughts and then quickly tell yourself something positive. And usually, if you have insight, then you will know whether you are the problem or other people are the problem. If you feel that they are the problem, then you work on yourself. And eventually, people come around and see, even if you ostracize her, it doesn't really change much on how she deals with us. It's like pouring water on a duck's back. So it's about working on yourself, changing your negative thinking patterns, and also believing in yourself and working on yourself. I think that's what I would say, Joseph.
Yeah, thank you, Victoria. And Victoria, you have really emphasized on self-care. You have also emphasized on self-awareness as the pillars that would help a leader be able to have a strong foundation in terms of leading self, and also that translates to also having positive impact, because in the leadership pyramid, at the base of the leadership pyramid is self-leadership, and self-leadership begins with self-awareness. It is through that we're able to transition to be able to create positive influence where we are, and that has to come from that personal understanding, and then from influence, we transition to leading others, and again, empowering leaders. And finally, we have to leading with a cause. I think, leaders, that was the last question. And I want to appreciate all of you for your time. For us, we say if a leader gives you 5 minutes, you have to appreciate that, because we know how much demand is on placed on our time. And therefore, if a leader gives you just some 5 minutes, we highly, highly appreciate that. And therefore, we want to appreciate your 1 hour. And we believe that this is just the beginning. As Victoria has put it, we need to normalize this conversation. We need to create safe space where we don't die in pain, but we can rise up and shout. I was told when you get to a hospital and your sugars are high, you just need to shout, my sugars are high. And the nurses will run and be able to take care of you. So we are creating a space where a leader should be able to comfortably and just announce that my sugars are high. I need help. And that can only happen when we normalize this conversation. I'm happy that Jedida was able to follow up with me. I know we went out to Gilgil to equip some men, and we partnered again to be able to equip men out there. And this is the second engagement, and I believe we're going to have more engagement so that we can be able to help leaders to also create positive environment within themselves and also positive environment within the spaces where they are leading. So parting shot from you, Victoria, as we wind up.
Thank you for the forum, Joseph. I think it is important for us leaders to know that it is okay not to be okay, but it is important to take care of your mental health. And we say that if you don't make time for your wellness, you will be forced to make time for your illness. So take note and make time for your wellness as leaders. Asante sana.
Thank you so much, Victoria. Thank you so much, leaders. Self-care, that's my parting shot, that we have to create a balance. We look at all the dimensions that we've discussed today. That will help us to have intrinsic health and also to be able to have extrinsic health. It will help us to create a positive environment within ourselves and also create a positive environment without or within our environment. So we want to pause there for tonight, and we look forward to engaging with you. I know some of you have shared your contacts. We'll be able to share this recording with you so that you can be able to listen to it again and again, and possibly share with your leaders. In GLN, we believe in sharing. We believe that if I learn something, the only way I can optimize that knowledge is by sharing that knowledge. So we'll share this recording so that you can be able to share with your leaders and promote this discussion and create a positive environment from within us, and also positive environment we form without our environment. So with that, we say thank you so much. May God bless you, leaders, and we wish you all a blessed night. Thank you, and have a wonderful time.